Hey, welcome to the series of everything you need to know about Python in simplest possible way. In Python, we have a specific data structure which is nothing but list. So we haven't discussed much about list, right? So from this video onwards in the coming videos, we will discuss more about list and what are the methods that we have in order to handle effectively this list. So as part of that, in this video, we will know what are lists, and apart from that, we will know how to create this list. So as part of that, first we will discuss what are list. So list is a collection of elements as a single entity. You can consider list as a container and you can put whatever the data that you wanted to put. So inside of a list, you can able to insert the data inside of a list, and later if you wanted to access a specific data, you can able to access. So we will see how we can do that. So apart from that, insertion order is preserved in list, which means that whatever the order that you are going to insert the elements in the list, those are preserved. That we will be seeing in the next video. So how we can do this insertion order and how we can access the elements inside of a list, that we will be seeing in our next video. So you can have any type of data in the list, which means that it is not restricted that when you have integer type of data in the list, you can have any other type as well. So in such way, list can have any type of data, which means that you can consider list as heterogeneous elements of data, which means you can have integer type, you can have float type, you can have string type, you can also have tuple, string, and some other data types also inside of a list. So apart from that, there is no fixed size for list. So by using this flexibility, you can have list with any number of elements that you wanted to present. So apart from that, lists are mutable, which means that once you create a list, when you modify the elements inside of a list, that will be affected in the original list itself. So as a result, a list is considered as a mutable. In the coming videos, we will know more about this list mutability. So I hope that is makes you clear about list. So let us go ahead and see how we can create a list. So list in Python is represented this particular square braces. By using these square braces, we can create an empty list. So this is an empty list. So let's say what I will be doing is that I will assign this to my list here. So what I will be doing is that by using type method, we can know what type of data it is, right? So for that reason, I am using this type and I am passing this particular my list here. And if I execute this, we can see the result, which is this type of this method, which is a list here. So I will print so that you can able to you can understand more clearly. So the type is, so here I am mentioning the type is, and at the end I am mentioning the type of this particular my list here. If I execute this, you can see the type is of class list. So by this you can able to understand, by mentioning this particular square braces, we can consider this as a list. So this is a creation of empty list. Let's say you have some elements inside of your list, you can directly mention the elements inside of a list. Let's say I am considering some elements 10, 20, 30. So these are integer type of data, right? So as I have mentioned, you can consider the elements inside of a list of any type. So for that reason, I will mention some string also. Let's say I am mentioning like here, and apart from that, I will mention a list inside of a list. So I am mentioning an empty list, and after that I will mention, let's say, tuple here. We haven't discussed much about tuple. Let us consider this as a tuple inside of this particular braces. So like this, we can have the elements inside of a list. So what I will be doing now is that I am taking my list 1 here. So I am assigning this to my list 1 here. So if I print my list 1 here, and you can see the result, we are getting the exact list that what we have. So if I check the type of this particular my list 1 here, and you can see the result is still of list type. So by this you can able to create a list when you have and when you know the elements inside of a list. So this is a straightforward approach that we can able to creating a list. So we have some other method in order to create list, which is nothing but this particular list method. So what this particular list method do is that whenever we pass any iterable inside of a list, and this will create a list. So what does that mean is that, let's say I am passing this particular we have discussed in our previous videos that this and this particular string can be considered as iterable, right? So I am passing that here. Let's say I am using like str here. So what I will be doing is that I will print this particular like str, and so that you can able to see the result. So apart from that, I will also print the type of this particular like str here. So now if I execute this, you can able to see the result. This particular like is having inside of a list by each character here. So by default, this particular list consider and take element by element inside of a iterable. So for that reason, each character is considered as an element. So for that reason, we are having L as one string, I as one string, K as one string, E as one string. So after that, when we are printing this particular type of this particular like string, we are getting the type which is list. Let's say if I pass one more iterable, which is nothing but this particular list itself, we can directly get the list itself, right? So if I print this particular list directly, you can able to see we are getting the direct list here, not getting this particular list here. So whenever we call this particular list method, it will return this particular list creation. Let's say I will pass tuple. Tuple is also considered as a iterable. So for that reason, I will pass this particular tuple. Tuple is represented inside of a braces. So I am passing 1, 2, 3 here. And if I print this directly here, and you can see the result, we are still getting inside of a square braces, though we have passed this inside of a curly braces. As a result, when we call this particular list, we are getting the result inside of this particular square braces. In such way, this particular list will convert the iterable inside to a list. So can we pass an empty iterable? Let's say I am passing list, which is a empty list, right? So though this particular list is considered as an iterable, if you pass this particular empty list, what we will get is that, let us see what we will get. If I execute this, we still are getting this particular empty list here. Let's say I will pass an empty string, and so that we can able to understand more clearly. So in this particular string, I am passing this particular empty, in this particular list method, I am passing empty string. And if I print this, and if I execute this, you can see the result. We are still getting the empty parenthesis, empty square braces here, because this particular list is used to construct the list only. So this empty string can be considered as iterable, because as we don't have any elements inside of this particular string, we are getting an empty square braces, which is nothing but a empty list. So like this, we can able to create list by using this particular empty square braces when we don't have elements inside of the list, and we can create the list using this particular square braces when we have elements by inserting the elements. Apart from that, we can create the list by passing the iterable to the list method. So can we send a single element inside of the list? Let us see that. Let's say I am passing this particular 5. If I print this here, and if I execute this, you can see the result, which is a type error, which is saying int object is not iterable, which means that inside of this particular list, we only pass the iterable. Anything that is not an iterable, which results an error, that is what we can see here. So I hope you can able to understand clearly how we can create a list by using empty square braces, by passing the elements inside of the square braces, by calling this particular list method. And the thing we need to consider whenever we are calling the list method, we only need to pass an iterable so that we can able to create the list. If we pass a non-iterable like this, integer or float. In such case, we will be resulted with an error. So like this, you can able to understand the creation of list, and I hope you have understand this particular list concept, that what are the main topic, what are the main thing that we have regarding list and the list creation. And if you found this video interesting, hit a like button, and like this we have some more things to be discussed that we will discuss in the next video. In the next video we will see how we can access the elements inside of this particular list. We have elements, right, like 10, 20, 30, like this particular empty list, this particular tuple. So how can we access each element inside of the list? So that we will be seeing in our next video. So to stay updated with my latest videos, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications to all, so that whenever I upload any video, you will get the notification. So thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.